Hey y'all, welcome to Conscious Cousin TV. It is your conscious cousin, Jamia B, here, and I'm back with another video. Welcome back, y'all. I know it's been a hot minute since y'all seen me, since I made some new content, but like I said, let's relish this moment that I'm here. There will be more moments, more consistency in the coming weeks and everything, but without further ado, let's get into. Okay, so boom. Lotto has released her album, Sugar Honey Iced Tea. It is 22 tracks long, about an hour listen. Of course, there are some previously released singles up there, as well as their remixes. I want to share with y'all a few of my favorite songs. Number one, that I've been played out already, is Georgia Peach. Yeah, know that I'm... Okay. Yeah, I really like that song. Shout out to me, Copper Cove, Chicken Grease, Ear Candy, Squeeze, Good to You, and of course Sunday Service and Put It on the Flow. And she also had a few catchy ones. Big Mama, which was released before the album dropped. At first, not gonna lie, when it dropped, I was not really feeling it, but it didn't came around. I was at work the other day. Big Mama, Big Mama, Big. Oh, okay. What you gonna do for Big Mama for real? What you gonna do? Big Mama, Big. Oh, okay. Yeah. So, H&M, da-na-na, Shrimp and Grits, Blitzum. Those are all songs that are like in between for me. Like, I don't love them, but I absolutely do not hate them. Ice Spice got her share of shade with the release of this album, particularly with the song Shout Out to Me, and it was just ISIS. I got ice boiling though. Listen, give her a break. I didn't even know that she was coming out with an album, y'all, to be honest, but I just so happened to find it on a release date, so thank God for that. But I played it to work, from work, and yeah, the ones that I told y'all are my favorites. I definitely recommend you go listen. Even the catchy ones, or all of it really, because it's only an hour, go by quick. I will say that when I'm listening to the songs from JT album, and this is not to compare, well, I guess it is, but you know how she had so many different versions of Okay? I feel like I just don't get tired of that song. Like, no matter what version it is, like I really just rock with that song. Like, I'm pretty than looking okay. Is this okay? Look at the okay I used to be, but now okay. You get what I'm saying? Like, Jeezy slid. She slid on the extended mix. The regular version still hit. I don't know. It just never gets old. And I guess you could say the same thing about Put It on the Flow, but I don't know. That okay hit different. That okay hit different. Moving on to Simone Biles, y'all. I know she has recently been in the media for a myriad of things regarding the Olympics, and more recently, like, surrounding her mom. But I really do want to just focus on the Netflix docuseries, which now has 2 of 4 parts published. And yeah, let's get into that. So, just to give a little bit of background surrounding, like, I guess Simone Biles' come up, and when like the world started like putting eyes on her. In 2016, she won in the Olympic Games, and by the next Olympic cycle in 2020, when nobody else has anything to do, because of course we're in the pandemic, and she has practically been made the face of this Olympic Games. However, there's an incident that is being talked about widely all over the world, because she has decided to quit, essentially. And as an outsider looking in, You can't really see why, but it takes an insightful and experienced person in a sense to know why and to believe someone when they are telling you something's not right. She said she had this gut feeling of, like I said, something's not right. She could not throw her skill in her warm-up, so she opted for a, like, something safe, like that she knew she could do. It was immediately called out by a commentator, like, I don't think she meant to do that. And so when it comes to actually pulling the stunt, she does the same thing again, and then ultimately, like I said, decides to forfeit the competition, and the world is left in shock because, like, what happened? Like, why didn't you do the thing that you were supposed to do? What happened, you know? She had a case of the twisties. If you do not know what the twisties are, it's like a matter of getting lost in, like, your stunts or your tumbling skills, whatever the skill may be, and just, I don't know, not being able to perform it correctly. In a sport like gymnastics, in any sport really, but specifically gymnastics because that is what we're talking about here, you really have to be honest and upfront about how dangerous it is. So in the docuseries, one of the coaches sort of talks about it a little bit more, like, in depth, and tells us that the twisties are a mental block that occurs as a stress response. We all know 2020 was a crazy year in the context of the Olympic Games. However, conditions were very different than anything we had ever seen before. There was no physical support there, just the essential and necessary people in that space. We hear from her mom, who speaks about all these rituals they had for every competition, her braiding her hair, just talking and being with each other. She's like, this is the first one I've never been at. Also point out too, chances are she's attended majority or bulk of her practices because she's a co-owner of a gym where Simone practiced gymnastics as a child. And we kind of get the sense that her inability to perform was attributed to the lack of physical support from her family, although they were definitely cheering her on and everything from home. But it was like mom felt that if she had just been there, if they could have just been there, things would have played out totally different. And maybe so, but we're going to get into the real root of the issue. But before we do that, I want to talk about, like, how hard it was for Simone Biles to even make such a decision in front of the world. I mean, we all have to make hard decisions, but the vast majority of us never have to do that on a world stage. We're not being seen and watched and, like, studied globally. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, due to her previous win and her return in 2020, her previous win in 2016 and her return in 2020, so many people were excited and anticipating her performance and just seeing her shine because that's what she does. But to make a decision that seems contradictory to the name you have built, it's especially hard because it's like a pedestal that you have been put on. Even her teammate, who sees her day in and day out at practice, was like, Simone is like a football player who never loses the Super Bowl ever. Like, imagine having to live up to that, you know? So I can't even imagine the shame she felt, or even worse, like, to me, the disappointment that came with that decision, like the feeling of letting everybody down. But she was also still going to do the right thing for her, because like I said, she knew in her gut something wasn't right, and she owed it to herself to take care of her and listen to her body. Those who didn't understand just didn't understand, although the online ridicule, once again, from the entire world, definitely like got to her. Who wouldn't be impacted by that, you know? So of course it got to her. Many people were comparing her to the 1996 competition with Carrie Strug, who clearly was in pain, decided to throw a scale and end up seriously injuring herself. Like, you could actually see with each attempt at this skill, her condition getting worse. She can't even walk off the platform at the end when she's done. It was a really symbolic visual of putting a band-aid over things that really, truly need your attention. Handling chronic issues with skin deep solutions. And y'all, I'm not gonna lie, because you know, sorry, I'm scratching my leg. But they played the clip of Carrie Strug back, and it really, really made me emotional. Because it's like, not even just in the world of gymnastics or Olympic context or anything like related to competition or performance, but just in life, it was as though, I don't know, I kind of put myself in that image, right? It was like I was watching myself constantly being chipped away at with every obstacle, hard thing, challenge, failure, shortcoming ever, like in life. And while just trying to make it through, and you just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, but you never really attend to the thing that's bothering you, the thing that is the source of your pain, the thing that is your distraction, the thing, whatever that thing is, you never really tend to it. And you find yourself on the other side because you've pushed through. But serious damage has been done. Irreversible damage has been done, and that's just not where I want to be. So even whether it is in the spiritual sense or a literal physical sense, you shouldn't do that. So Simone ultimately made the right decision, and Dominique Dawes, who competed with Carrie in 96, also said like Carrie shouldn't even have done that then. So the whole narrative of they don't make them like they used to, or she should have just did what Carrie did, is ridiculous. It reminds me of the legend of John Henry. If you don't know, it's a folk tale about this black man, strong man, who was working doing like mining stuff, and he had to go through this big old like rock thing, I don't know, and against like an actual machine. But he had this history, this legacy of being such a great and fast worker, and he was like, no, I can beat the machine. And they put him up against this machine. He wins, but as soon as he makes it to the other side, he's dead. Don't drop dead after you make it through, because what was all of that for? What good did that do you? You get what I'm saying? I think we have to keep in mind that we owe it to ourselves as well, whatever that may look like for us in our lives. I know that was kind of off track, but that was just how that spoke to me in that moment. Like I said, it made me emotional. So I feel like that was somebody's word, maybe not just mine, but somebody need that, because we really truly have to uncover what's behind that. And for me, it highlighted two things. That was people pleasing, and like I said, the feeling of disappointing people. Those are also things that we have to let go. Otherwise, we'll be left with nothing but scraps. The key to life is not just survival, it's self-preservation. Now we're going to actually get into what did cause her to have this mental block, or what they call the twisties. One of the coaches also came out and said it's easier to have empathy for the things that we can see, but like I said, the world watching did not see anything and was just in shock, in a state of confusion, because there was, I guess, immediately no explanation, which she did not owe us, but also a lack of understanding. And due to her having not addressed it yet on her own prior to this moment, I'm sure not only was it invisible, it was also unidentifiable, whatever it was that caused this stress response. As I stated before, so many things about this competition, particularly in 2020, in the middle of a global pandemic, was so many things were so different. The pandemic being number one, of course, which resulted in number two, the lack of physical support from family. But number three, the essay that she had experienced prior, in the competition prior, with the longtime physician in the Olympic Games, who had been tried by the time 2020, but it took therapy to even recognize that her being there and competing again was a trigger and was ultimately the cause of her having the twisties. Like I said, this was not even identifiable or recognizable until later. After the Olympics, she found herself still in this space of lostness and probably just as much confusion as the rest of the world, if not more, because this is her lived experience, this is her life, this is her livelihood. And eventually she starts back going to the gym, getting that therapy, and for her to even get to a place where she was comfortable, she had to start from scratch. And as backwards as that may seem, there was healing in that. And even the people around her on her team could recognize that. So they encouraged her to continue coming back to the gym. She would have her dry seasons and up and down moments, but their encouragement, like she said, they would tell her, please come back tomorrow, really aided in her being built back up and learning to trust herself again. The beauty in that is when she allowed herself to be seen fully, wholly, she created an opportunity for those around her to truly and fully support her. And that was another word, because that is the importance of community. That is the importance of good company. And she found herself having fun in the gym again, getting back to the Simone Biles that we had come to know and love. And community did that. Without them, I don't know. So lean in, y'all. Lean into whoever you got around. Make sure it's good people, a good circle, those who can recognize the healing in what you're doing or what you could be doing. You know, those who aid in your healing, who encourage your healing, who water that seed of growth and healing in you, you know. Jonathan was a part of that community as well, and this was when they first started dating. He told her, you grow through what you go through. So he's like, yeah, we got to get through this, but I promise you, you're gonna be a beast at the end of it. The overall theme, as the title indicates, is about rising above. Like I said, only 2 of the 4 parts are out. I have the feeling that the other 2 parts will be about this year's Olympic Games. But we are shown a little bit of her background. She was in the foster care system. She read and heard about the stats on the outcome of those children like her who were in the system, and she was like, that's not gonna be me. I'm not gonna be another statistic, because all those signs point to no. They all say that she can't. But in the face of all that, she said yes. She said, still I rise. She actually has that tattooed on her collarbone. And we know that saying, that quote from the Maya Angelou, who herself was a victim of SA when she was a child. And the parallels in that are just like so powerful, and I'm glad that she's taking her influence so seriously and using it as a platform to advocate and motivate and encourage young girls and victims or whomever to just be empowered and take control of their healing. You've been so out of control, where you felt out of control and just lost. You can choose to rise again. Moving on, child. So how about Kamala Harris? She has already chosen her running mate for the presidential race of this year is Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota. And can we talk about what his last name is? Because I don't know if it's Walz or Waltz. The black in me want to say Waltz. But it just might be Walz. But Governor, he is already loved. He's an agreeable pick, it seems like, from what I can tell on social media. They're calling this man America's dad, and essentially that's what he is. That's what, on paper, that's what he looks like. He has been a teacher. This man is a veteran. He ensured that George Floyd's murderer was held accountable. His response to the riots in Minnesota at that time was very empathetic, you can tell. Even George Floyd's family is like very fond of him. His brother did an interview with ABC practically praising this man for his empathy and overall character in the entire situation. Of course, the Republicans are critiquing that, but man, I'm intrigued. I know they have hosted a few rallies since he has been announced as the VP pick. We just gonna have to stay tuned, y'all. And I want to get back into Project 2025, y'all. We have to talk about this deal. Just because it's not a trending topic no more, that doesn't mean we're done. Class is still in session. Best believe it. It's just a couple things I want to hit on today. From my earlier research, this is still us in the the foreword of this document. One thing that is a concern for many on both sides is reproductive rights or abortion rights. And reproductive rights does not just, it's not just talking about abortion, it's talking about birth control, it's talking about the doctors we see, the healthcare we receive, things like that, you know? So it's been propagandized as though it is just about abortion, but it's deeper than that. They're talking about facilitating deaths of the unborn. And to that I say, what about the facilitation of the deaths of the living? All of these wars and genocides happening, these attacks on communities and whole cultures, Palestine, Sudan, Congo, Haiti, and so many other places, Ethiopia, that are suffering, who are literally under attack. And this country is complicit in a lot of these things. And as much power and influence that we as a nation have, it just doesn't make sense. And not only in other countries, now that I'm thinking about it, but the living conditions here in some areas. The vast majority of the U.S. population is in poverty. Are these suitable living conditions? Moving on. Alternatives for abortion have been adoption, and that is being pushed more if people feel that they aren't suited for parenthood. But we also have to look at that system at its current state, with the legalization of abortions and contraceptives and all of that. What are the outcomes, you know, for especially kids who are older, maybe minority kids, different communities all around the world? I'm pretty sure adoption rates are lower and higher in certain areas for different reasons. I feel like people need to look big picture. While they are making it seem like it's just abortion on the ballot, that is not the case. Your birth control is on the ballot. Your doctor's education is on the ballot. How they deal with you as a patient is on the ballot. It's about equity and access. Another thing that the Heritage Foundation is pushing for with this conservative plan is smaller government. And the details of that just give me pre-Civil War, to be frank. That's what it gives. And basically on page 3, it's not these words exactly, but so many words. They said this proposed plan is by us, for us. FUBU, but backwards, because FUBU did not have to tear anybody else down. But BUFU, yeah, they just want to completely do away with and dismantle the state of the government as we know it now. So many things are regulated by the government, and that can be a good and bad thing. But as a people, I think it's time that we recognize our duty is not just to show up at the polls every 4 years. It's to go to the city hall meetings. It is to vote in your local elections. The deadline to register to vote is coming up very soon. In some states, if you do not vote by these deadlines, you will not be able to vote in the upcoming election, which also is the same time that we'll be voting for house seats, you know, because all of those seats are up for grabs this year. Okay, so everybody just do your part, you know, and I feel that we can get better. It's about holding people accountable, and that is the last thing that is wanted or being proposed or pushed in Project 2025. No accountability in sight. But hey man, say man, I'm just here to let y'all know, because as you know, knowing is half the battle. I want to talk about the art of starting over, and this even applies to our government, because the way that we should do things moving forward should not be the same way that it has always been done. We need to start from scratch like Simone Biles, because there is healing in that. There's true surgery that is being done. We're getting to the root of things, and just in life, that should just be something everyone should master and not be afraid of. I know a lot of times when I've heard about starting over, it's always been positioned as a negative, and I never really got it. It sounded stupid to me. Like, okay, growing up, people would say the reason they didn't want to break up with somebody was because, I don't want to start over. What? If it's not working, I always think of starting over as an opportunity to do it better and do it right this time. You know? Like, if I could do it differently, that is your chance. That's a blessing, to be able to start over and this time have more knowledge and more experience. It's not the prettiest or best feeling in the world, but sometimes it is necessary. And I think that as a people, as a culture, we have to get out of that mindset that starting over is always going backwards. That's not the case. That is one of my favorite things about myself, that I am not afraid to start over, because whatever it is that I'm faced with, I know that I can go back to home base, because all I need is God. I trust him that much. When God is your foundation, starting over don't mean a thing. That ain't nothing but a word. So I hope y'all really enjoyed this show. That was Conscious Cousin TV. I am that girl, your cousin, Jamia B. And I'm out. Peace.